he most powerful in the world after so many fights with broken Demon King. And now several years later she only wants a normal life. Now she meets some dragon that can be transformed into a girl. She despised humans for considering them weak, so organize a battle against her to prove that she is wrong now. Begins with Blade and his friends at the academy where they are training to fight a dragon named Company. They split themselves into squads and each squad fights the dragon in their own way. The dragon is strong, proves easily overcomes many students. One tries to attack the dragon with arrows, while another attacks with his swords. But all of them, despite their great strategy and enthusiasm, are unable to find the dragon's weak point. Watching the battle, the king is shocked, but notices the problem. Their regular attacks have no effect in the dragon's armored scales. It is interesting to see what they will do next. The students think of ways to deal with the terrible dragon, who tends to the wounded in one corner of the battlefield. And Blade appears to be waiting for something. When the king asks him what he's waiting for, Blade replies that the battle will end before anything else happens. The intensity of the fight increases and Blade tells his friends that this is their chance to win. The king doubts Blade's plan will work, but he is surprised when he sees the dragon fall to the ground, revealing that they dug a pit to trap it. The king realizes that they are fighting with all their might but still doesn't understand what they are planning. Blade explains to the king that they set up traps during the war to ensure its success. The king is astonished by this revelation, but Blade clarifies that these traps won't be enough to defeat the dragon. Instead, he says the real battle starts now. Blade's friends manage to knock the dragon to the ground and swarm it, attempting to strike it. However, Ernest, wielding her sword, finds that it is already very strong, but overusing it weakens its power, and the sword refuses to continue fighting. In that moment, Ernest asks Leonard to take over the fight. Leonard charges at the dragon with his weapon, but the dragon's strength sends him flying. Despite this setback, Leonard is still fit and able to fight, as he has never failed to complete the 10-kilometer run that Ernest makes him do every morning. We see the dragon taking flight to escape, but Ernest rushes towards her, ready to strike with her sword. As the dragon falls to the ground after they blow their friends, Sophie quickly follows up with a powerful strike before it hits the ground. After a long and exhausting battle, we see all the students tired and worn out. Ernest decides to use her powerful sword again, and asks Leonard to reveal her tremendous strength. Leonard, however, informs her that he can no longer do anything as he has reached his limit. Ernest becomes angry with him and shouts in frustration. Then unexpectedly we witness the incredible power of Ernest's sword, with energy radiating from every part of her body. They all join forces to support her, with each student holding hands to channel their strength to Ernest. The scene reveals a side of Ernest that they have never seen before. As the power surges through her, Blade proudly informs the Dragon County that this is the power of humans attacking her. Just when County thinks she is about to be defeated, the students set off explosives, creating a massive blast. After the smoke clears, we see everyone exhausted. Blade approaches Ko to console her, but she believes she has disappointed her father and will be abandoned. Blade reassures County that she is not weak, but the humans have shown their incredible strength. He tells her that they would gladly accept her as their friend if she confesses her defeat. County agrees, and everyone is overjoyed with their newfound friendship. The scene shifts to a mysterious girl who asks the king, talks about his plans, and is happy to see the growth of his students and their ability to use their fighting spirit and psychic energy. The girl asks about a certain device, and the king confirms that it is a virtual reality magic created from a lost horn, the so-called science. He looks forward to its completion. Knife and his friends are seen with Ko. A new girl approaches Ko, wants to taste his food. Ko refuses, but she friend convinces her, and Ko enjoys a knife. Talking to Ernest about something special, everyone is shocked, and they ask him not to talk. Then Claire tells him that he hasn't changed at all, interrupting her to say that he has changed completely, which makes Ernest very angry, and he tells Leonard to ignore Blade's words because he is still beautiful despite his looks. Blade then tells him that he is overweight, which angers Ernest, who tells him such things, says to ignore it, and she starts crying and leaves them. Then Sophie says what Knife did was wrong, and she wouldn't be surprised if their relationship ended. After that, Claire says that it has been 3 days since she secluded herself in her room. Then Ku asks about the meaning of ended, and she tells him that they are no longer friends. Blade gets angry, wanting to remain friends with Ernest, and apologizes to her. He expresses his desire to keep their friendship intact and seek her forgiveness, so they advised Blade that his impulsive behavior would only make Ernest angrier. They decided to go with him to earnestly apologize and beg for her forgiveness. They all realized they were now true friends. When Blade heard this, his eyes welled up with tears, and he thanked them all for standing by his side. That night they all went together to Ernest's house to apologize. When they knocked there was no response, and the door remained unanswered, so Sophie, who had a spare key, decided to open the door herself. Inside they found Ernest seemingly crying, but as they turned on the lights, they were shocked by what they saw. Ernest was eating sweets in a very peculiar way. It was evident to Blade that the reason for her weight gain was excessive sweet consumption. He asked her if their friendship was truly over, and Ernest clarified that it was not the case. She loved them all, and never intended for them to see her like this. Blade was relieved that their friendship was intact, and upon hearing Ernest say she cherished their bond, he was overjoyed. Blade then decided to leave, but the girls grabbed him by his clothes, insisting that he must talk to Ernest because she seemed desperate. They explained to Blade that Ernest had been consuming too many sweets, which could be detrimental to her health in the future. Blade, flustered and unaccustomed to dealing with such matters, told them he didn't know what to say as he wasn't good at talking to people. He recalled Leonard's way of speaking to Ernest and decided to emulate him, placing his hand on her left shoulder and assuring her that they would help her overcome her excessive weight. He emphasized that all she needed now was intense training. Ernest's face looked puffed up, and her stomach enlarged due to her obesity, but she decided to heed their advice and start the exercises the next morning. Blade, Co and Ernest began their rigorous running exercises. Ernest appeared extremely exhausted, and her excessive weight was evident, making it difficult for her to pick up the pace. Then they moved on to another exercise, with Blade encouraging her to keep going. County cheered her on from behind, playfully imitating monkeys. They continued with abdominal exercises, but Ernest struggled to do more than 3. Losing weight was still quite challenging for her. Afterward they went to a restaurant, and when Ernest saw her small meal she didn't like it. They reassured her that it was sufficient for her to cut down on calorie intake and start losing weight quickly. On the other hand, we see Ernest entering the hot sauna. When she came out, her friends were waiting for her to measure her weight. However, when she stepped on the scale it started spinning multiple times, and finally, however, when he looked at the weight, he was surprised to see that it had not changed. Ernest could not believe that his weight had not yet decreased. At that moment the knife was looking over the bar, but they hit him with something, which caused him to fall. His friends dreamed of an easy way to speed up his metabolism, and Ernest went under the knife to a certain field. She handed him her sword, and explained that it was test field number 2, protected by a powerful magical barrier, ensuring no one gets hurt. Ernest believed that the field and the sword might help her lose weight faster. Blade was entrusted to assist her in case anything went wrong. As Ernest used her sword, flames erupted around her, engulfing her entire body. She appeared to be in extreme pain due to the intense heat. Her friends arrived at the scene, surprised by what was happening. Blade explained that it was her sword's inner monster speaking. It informed Ernest that her body was being consumed and would become a powerful flame immune to physical attacks. They were witnessing a demonic form that had not been seen in generations. Ernest sarcastically mocked her opponent, saying she was burning a lot of calories and must have exhausted herself. The inner monster revealed that maintaining this form required an enormous amount of energy, about 1,000,000 calories per hour. Ernest was thrilled by the news and decided to transform again. This time she grew a terrifying tail. Claire, her friend, advised her not to lose her human side, to which Ernest jokingly replied that she was delicious. She quickly reverted to her original form when Blade used his sword's power to knock her down with the force of the wind, the problem of heavy sweets reoccurring and causing him to gain weight again. Knife and his friends are shocked that he is back to eating so much, but Ernest convinces them to calm down as he can turn into a flaming demon and burn up